Hi, in this video I'd like to show you this really interesting rock art technique I discovered in the Robledo Mountains of southern New Mexico. But before you can understand why this is here and the images that are on these rocks, you have to realize that this is the area of the Chichimec, that this is the area where the Aztec came from. It's all written in their history. Not only that, but the Aztec are known to have been only one of 7 tribes. And it's even said that the Aztec were the last of 7 tribes to enter the Valley of Mexico, which means all these tribes were here with them, helping them fight for their empire in the Valley of Mexico. Now these tribes were from all over the world. So this rock art appears to use some sort of applique technique. There are strands of very hard concrete-like threads across this rock that are then filled in with this other material. You can even see thumbprints in some of it. I don't know what any of these materials are, but they're very hard because they've lasted for hundreds of years on this rock. The colors have faded quite a bit, but when you adjust your photographs, you can see what they probably looked like when they were being worked on. And because of this technique, you could get very detailed images. So this rock art is on this pile of rocks down here in the bottom of this wash. It comes off the Robledo Mountains. These rocks aren't rounded and weathered like rocks would be in the bottom of a wash. Instead, they're very sharp, freshly broken, and stacked up to create different figures. Here they use both faces of the rock. And there's 2 guys biting each other's lip here. It's a common theme I've discovered in prehistoric art, this man kissing a man. I think it has as much to do with the brotherhood of the tribes and the peoples as anything sexual. So here you can see these rocks. They've been plastered with a material. They may have had some sort of cord run through it that they then pulled off to make the lines, or these lines were carved into it. It lays out all the different figures when you have all these different lines. It's just like the geoglyphs I found on the landscape. So the most completed part appears to be down on the very end, on the right end. Different figures at the top. It looks like maybe a falconer, a guy with a bird on his arm. There's lots of different ways to look at this art, and it's meant to be that way. They were very clever. When you kind of zoom in close on this lower part of the rock, it looks like a big battle scene. There's a bunch of crosses. They could be the masts of boats. Different lighting and different angles, you can see how this material is being applied. And even over off to the edge, the rocks behind form this guy with a hat. So this upper part of this rock looks to be the most completed part. So let's look at that a little closer. You can see how detailed these images can get. You have a guy here that appears to be flying. He's holding a stick. He's got a wing on his back. He's hanging down from that wing. A guy with wings on the guy's arm. So most of this art can be flipped, rotated around. This way you can see a figure down here at the round face. He might be riding a horse here. You can also see different faces in this dark area, again facing both directions. The guy here on the right looks to be riding on a dragon, and the guy over on the left appears to be sitting in a basket, hanging down, maybe wings behind him. Different figures' faces, sometimes they'll have different themes for different rotations. Here when you flip it over, you see this figure of this sort of pink-faced man sitting in a gondola. This is the side of the hill behind the rocks. I believe that this is already like a temple, a mortuary feature, that they were burying people back inside this hill already. This whole side of this hill has been disturbed. All the rocks in the wash have been disturbed. Even here you can see down in the wash, all these rocks are placed and stacked to create figures. You can really see how this masonry work on this top layer up here, and then this bottom layer too. All these rocks were being laid out to form a scene ahead of time, because then they were probably going to be placed in a tomb. And I believe that there are probably completed works of art like this in tombs in the area. All these ancient monuments around the world, they were always living, they were always being added to. Nothing lasted forever. They would cover it up, build over it again. So this just goes to show that if we really start looking at the rocks out in our desert closely, we'll discover all these different rock art techniques that are non-traditional. And the reason that nobody looks for it or knows it's there is because they're making assumptions about the people that were here, and that there's only one type of rock art. And not only that, but they're not even reading that rock art correctly. Go look through my playlist, you'll see some rock art videos I've already done to show that the whole rock's supposed to be viewed as a piece of art, and modern humans are just looking at the peck mark parts or the paint strokes, and they're not looking at the whole Rembrandt.